Sounds good.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Hello, Jody. How are you doing over there?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome back a year later. We had you on the podcast 1 year ago, almost
Was
to
it
this
1 year
day.
ago?
Yeah,
Wow.
crazy,
Time
hey?
certainly flies when nobody's doing anything during
Yeah,
pandemics, but
pandemics. And we
lots
caught
of
up
time at the
just before
house.
pandemics.
I know. Wow. What a year, what a difference a year makes, but it's nice to see
Absolutely.
you.
Yeah,
It's
you
nice to be
too.
with you back again. And
Yeah, thank
yeah, I'm
you.
excited to hear how things are going in Perth and to talk about all things that we do, including that tongue of yours.
I know, I had to blue myself this morning, unfortunately.
Lovely.
Had to be
Lovely.
in the sun with
So
some bluing. So we'll get into that. But
love it.
what I
A
want
little
to
bit too
say,
late for me over
yeah,
here.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
you're in the 9 o'clock zones and we're still in
indeed.
the midday zones. So we're good. We're good. So
Unless I was a
I'll,
very fast
yeah,
caffeine metabolizer, but in a very, very
yes.
fast one. But
Yes, I'm okay. I can sleep on caffeine, which is a good thing. But we'll get into that in
yeah.
a minute.
Yes.
I just thought I'd start off by saying that your sense of humor, Scott, I do really, really love. And so thank you for bringing all that and your knowledge.
Sure.
It's just
Sure.
incredible. And you make health and learning so much more interesting. So straight off
Yeah.
that, I'm so
Thank you.
excited to have you back on the show and
You
talking
might
with
be
you
like the
today.
only other person other than my wife who thinks I'm funny, but I'll take it.
Well, those who are reading some of those emails out there, I think they'll agree. I think they agree that you
Oh,
have a good sense of humor.
yes. Guilty as charged. I do write the emails for the Troscriptions site. Yes.
had to sneak
I
that
have a
out
lot
there.
of fun with
Sorry.
them.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
good. They're really good.
Yeah, I had fun with like the 1980s references and like a lot of really interesting ones, like the More You Know commercials back in the 1980s in the US. All these celebrities come on and like do like some sort of like public service announcement, and it's like the more you know, and like it was. So I'm just showing my age with them, but hopefully I've taken some people along for a ride.
You're not that old because I'm close behind you, so shush. We do have another podcast, like I said, and those listeners that want to go and find out more information about all that, they can go back and listen to that one as well. We're going to be following on today, talking about a little bit more of what we talked about last time, but diving a little bit deeper. So first of all, I wanted to get started on HOMeHOPE. So coming home and having hope and the art of health optimization. So let's go into that a little bit and where we're looking at going in the next sort of month, because there's going to be lots of dropping of new modules, as we call it. So give me a little bit of a rundown, because you're really good at that, because you can get information very clearly out there.
You're just setting me up for disaster today, Judy. You know that, saying that I'm funny and that I'm a wordsmith and everything, but I'll do my best. Yeah. Okay. So just as a quick recap, Health Optimization Medicine in Practice was pioneered by our colleague, Dr. Ted Achacoso, who's one of probably the most interesting men in the world, and probably more interesting than the Dos Equis guy too, by the way. If you had those commercials in Australia, we had them here. And so he's a brilliant guy, and he had a clinic in Manila that he's run, I think now for over 10 years, where he developed this practice called Health Optimization Medicine. And he did it because he was looking for a better way to optimize health rather than treat disease. And it's a framework that I'm very familiar with, growing up the son of a chiropractor in New York. And so he really was at the point of sort of inflection back in like 2016, 2017. People were starting to reach out to him. They were interested in learning about health optimization medicine, but he didn't have a framework in the sense of anything that anybody could use to utilize in their own practice. And so I met Dr. Ted back in 2017. And when he told me about the framework, I was pretty much sold right away, because for me, the idea of optimizing health rather than treating disease specifically made so much sense. Foundational health principles, not focusing so much on the diseases and the conditions, because before you get those things or while you have those things, there's all these foundational things that you can look at and you can optimize. And then if you optimize at that level, then everything else gets better above that or below that, or however you want to call it. And so it really resonated to me. And I remember getting really excited. I had all these conversations in 2017. I'm like, oh, this is amazing, and we got to get this going. And then it's been a process to make it all work. And it's been a creation of 7 modules for the basic certification. And the modules really focus on very kind of broad, but also on the same level specific areas of expertise that very few people learn in medical school like I did. And the other piece of it is that I think Dr. Ted realized, and I realized very quickly, that doctors are not the only types of practitioners that really could benefit from this kind of education and use it in their own practices. And so health optimization medicine became health optimization medicine and practice. So health optimization medicine for doctors and health optimization practice for non-doctors. And we realized, I mean, I knew this from the beginning, doctors don't tend to be the most pliable of people. We tend to be pretty narrow-minded on some level. We only will use very specific types of data in very specific contexts in the randomized placebo-controlled trials. And even though those are bullshit many of the times, and they get overturned in 10 years when something else comes out, that's how conventional medicine works. And, you know, I practice that way, and I still do in the hospital part-time. So I understand that, and I think it's very important. But at the same time, especially when you're looking at things that are happening over a longer period of time, like your foundational health, it's a different algorithm. It's a different framework, as opposed to somebody comes into the hospital with a GI bleed or a COPD exacerbation or pneumonia. Then you use antibiotics, you use steroids, you use whatever, and you get them better. But if you have time, then not just looking at the condition side of things, but the foundation of how these things arise is what health optimization medicine is all about. And so there's 7 basic modules of health optimization medicine and practice, 7 basic tenets or areas, whatever you want to call them. From an educational perspective, there's 7 modules that you can get educated in. The first one is called metabolomics. And metabolomics is really the study of these various, what we call metabolites, or the things that are happening in your cell that allow you to make energy effectively, that allow you to make neurotransmitters effectively, that allow you to detoxify effectively. So like vitamins, minerals, nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients, antioxidant levels, heavy metals, etc. And so you can measure all that on the cellular level. And you also can measure things that are coming outside from your environment, things like toxins in the environment, like from your makeups, from the air, from other things in the air, lots of things in the air I'm missing, like in the water, other stuff, lots of things, plastics, etc. And so you can measure all these things. And so that's what metabolomics is. And the second one, the second module is epigenetics, which is the study of how the environment actually modulates our expression of various genes on our DNA, and expressing various things that can be responsible for healing us and optimizing us, or responsible for cancer and killing us. It just, our epigenetics are really the key to our longevity, is what it's coming down to. Our DNA is what it is. You can't change it, but you can change how the DNA is being expressed and how the genes are being expressed in the DNA. And so that's epigenetics. And then we have the gut microbiome, the microbiota, which is fungus, virus, and bacteria, and how all that plays a role in health and how huge that role is. And that's a very, very amazing module and a very amazing framework that we use, because we use testing for all of this too. It's not just we're talking about things in like hypotheticals. We're talking about getting blood, urine, and stool analysis and looking at data that are within these modules to help us optimize your health. And so the gut microbiota, we look at a lot of different things. We look at gut health from a microbiota perspective. We look at it metabolic health from the gut, and all these other kinds of things that are responsible for your gut health. Leaky gut, everybody's heard of, and bacterial overgrowth and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and et cetera. The next module would be, there's chronobiology. Chronobiology is the study of circadian rhythms. There's many different types of circadian rhythms. The most common, of course, is sleep. But there's also the infraradian rhythms, the things that are less than 24 hours, and what is the other one? The longer ones than 24 hours, that like the menstrual cycle, for example. We mostly focus on the circadian rhythms of sleep and the sleep-wake cycle, and how important that is. One of the things that Dr. Ted says, I don't know if you've heard him say this, but your day doesn't start when you wake up, it starts when you go to sleep. And so you have I like to say it starts like 2 hours before you go to sleep, because you want to have your prep and your routine and things like that. And so that's chronobiology. We have evolutionary medicine, which is very interesting. Evolutionary medicine is the study of how our genes evolved to work over time. Some genes are express various genes. Those genes get expressed for various reasons, for fitness and for function, for procreating, something that might kill you very early might be great for having more babies, kind of things. And so there's these trade-offs that we have, and so understanding your ancestry and your genetics related to, you know, where your ancestors lived. Are you, like, as Dr. Ted again says, are you a tropical boy? Are you English Anglo-Saxon, but somehow live where there's like sun almost 360 days of the year in Perth, Australia, right? So you have to think about these kinds of things and how it reflects on your biology and your lifestyle and behaviors. We also have one specifically on the mitochondria, or bioenergetics. And that's a module that's specific for like light, water, magnetism, and understanding how the inside of the mitochondria work. We also have one on exposomics, which is the study of toxins outside of our environment and how they affect us internally. And am I missing one? I'm missing one.
I think that was it. Was it? Hang on.
Is that it?
Metabiomics.
I wasn't counting.
No, with a I. Chronobiology, exosomes. Yeah, I think that was it.
Okay, cool. I got them. And so, but to sum it all up, right? We have this like a word that can describe all of this, and this is called the holobiont. HOLOBIONT. And that's like this whole system that we are. We have this sort of aura of like bacteria, fungus, and virus around us at all times. We have heartbeats, right, that have electromagnetic that kind of come out from our bodies, right? That's how we can hear them. And then we have the environment around us, and then we have our internal system at the same time with that includes bacteria, fungus, and virus, along with our regular cells, our normal cells, and then the mitochondria, which used to be a bacteria way back in the day that got co-opted, and then that's how we can make energy. And so all of that we kind of put in a nice little bow for our clients. Although it sounds like a lot, and it is on some level, it's very manageable when you're just looking at a health perspective. And you know, my clients that I see, because I have my own practice, as you know, Jody, like I always tell them, like, look, this is a lot of information when you first get it, but when you really kind of boil it down, it's relatively straightforward.
It actually makes it more understandable for them. They actually find it more understandable from that base perspective versus going from the top down, like you say, with the general medicine, that they're looking at, okay, I'm targeting this, but how does that have a repercussion for this other side? Whereas this is looking at everything. So it's sort of like that context.
Yeah. One of the questions I always like to ask when I lecture is how many people are taking supplements. And of course, it depends on the audience, but if I'm at like a biohacking conference, it's 99.99%. But if I'm at a regular conference, maybe it's about 60 to 70% of people. And I ask the next question, which is how many here have measured what they need or are taking supplements that reflect what they need? And maybe even in the biohacking community, maybe 10 to 15% of people are doing it. The good thing is that there's more resources for people to be able to measure micronutrients, and there's new testing that's coming out all the time that's more consumer focused, so that you don't have to go through a doctor to get it, which is good. But on the whole, most people are not taking things that they need. They're just taking things that they hear that they need from podcasters and from other people in the health space that are selling various things. And that's totally cool on some level. But if you're not really measuring what you need, you can take too much. And too much antioxidants, for example, become pro-oxidant on some level, and they can cause inflammation, or they can actually make it very difficult for you to actually mount an antioxidant response in your own body if you're taking too much. And if you're taking too many, something like the fat soluble vitamins, those actually can build up and be damaging as well. And so it's important, and those are the vitamins A, D, E, and K for people that care. But in a sense that it's important, I think, if you're going to be taking things, to know why you're taking them, not just because you heard they were good for you, kind of thing. Now, of course, there's herbs and there's adaptogens and there's other compounds that don't have an exact data point in your biology, but you can typically understand how they would work and interact with what kind of data points that you have. Like a good example are like immune adaptogens, for example. It's like, so like lion's mane, for example, or reishi or chaga, or some of the mushrooms. If you're using those for immune support, if you're using those for brain health, you can typically say that lion's mane, for example, is a great like one for neurogenesis, helping brain neurons grow. But if you don't have a relatively good foundation, people don't do well with lion's mane, actually. And they can feel cognitively worse, or they can feel too edgy and stimulated and things like that. So it's, I think, always important no matter what I do, I always come back to this foundation, Jody, as I know you do as well, which is, what is your foundational health like? And then you can build your fun on top of that, or your other therapies. For me, as you know, it's hyperbaric therapy, and
Yes.
for others it's neurofeedback, and for others it's massage, and for others it's acupuncture, and for others it's chiropractic, and the list goes on and on. And that's the beauty of this framework. It's not mutually exclusive to anybody or anything. It can be somebody that has cancer and somebody that is an elite athlete. And I have patients that are both, or clients that are both. And because there's a role for it to be played on both levels, on both levels or sides of that spectrum.
Absolutely. And it not only sort of wraps it up, but with those different practitioners, when you learn this way, you can then, like you say, you add on those therapies on top. You can add on what you already know or what you're already practicing on top of that. And that's that base level. That's that foundational level, like you say. And then what I love also about all of this is that not only do we look at just those bases, but we've actually got something to go from there. So we look at some of those other deficiencies, like the endocannabinoid deficiency. And then with the Troscription side of things, there is extra parts that are coming through to help clients get through those initial 3 to 6 months of these treatments, which takes that little bit longer. It's that patience of that healing, isn't it? Those 90-day red cells to change over, and all these sorts of things that it takes time. But therefore, in the interim, there is relief in some way.
Bottlenecks, we call them, on the path to optimizing your health. And you're right. I mean, I often say it took you this many years to get to where you are. I think it's difficult to expect that tomorrow you're going to feel better and as good as you want to feel. And so I always emphasize to my clients that it's a process. It's a process to see these changes happen. Some people, some clients, it can be very quick, almost immediate. Others, it can take a much longer period of time, especially if there's a lot of gut-related issues, is what I've found. And I think you've found the same over the years, Jody. It's the gut. It just takes a while to shift that microbiota to optimize the commensals, which are the normal bacteria, and maybe decrease the ones that are overgrown and things like that. It can just take some time. And so I'm always emphasizing to my clients that this is going to take time. We don't repeat the testing usually until 6 months later. Sometimes with the testing, I'll repeat the GI testing at the 3-month mark, just to see if we're making some progress there, if we need to do some other rounds of like natural antimicrobials or something like that, because the gut, like I said, is more challenging. But just to give you a couple of client stories recently, which have been really cool, is that, again, I don't make any claims. I don't tell people that I'm going to make their PCOS better, or that they're going to sleep better, or that they're going to stop. My friend from Atlanta, my colleague, my client, I don't think he would mind me giving this. I'm not going to give his name, but he said that he likened his bowel movements to shitting through a screen door. And he said it in a Southern accent as well, because he's from North Carolina or South Carolina. And so he had a parasite, and we cleaned up his diet. We got rid of the parasite, and no more shitting through screen doors for him. So good. So that's good.
It's all poo in my clinic. I'm not shy. I always tell everyone coming through the door, I'm like, we're going to be talking about poo today. I hope that's okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite things that you can sometimes say on podcasts, or like when you're talking to people, is when you say do at the same time. And I just said do again. It's a great one. But yeah, we talk shit all the time. And
absolutely.
And it's important, because people are afraid of their crap, because they want to look at it, they want to smell it, they want to, and they're like, no, you're going to collect it in a French fry container, and you're going to scoop it up, and you're going to put it
mix
in tubes.
It in.
Oh yeah, it's lovely. So, and in some countries you can get nurses and other people to do that, but in the US, I think in Australia, they force you to do it yourself. Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I had a recent client also whose menstrual cycle was regular for the first time since she was a teenager. Incredible. And so these are great. And like, these are not things that I come out and say is going to happen. I say, we're going to optimize your health and look at these nutritional deficiencies and toxicities. But like you said, for many people, and it's still been my experience, that they need some help along the way. And that's when some of these cool biohacking technologies are available. That's when some of these additional supplements are available too. And some of the modules that are advanced modules as well in health optimization medicine and practice, one that you've specifically written, Dr. Jody over there, with the endocannabinoid system, and also peptides are things that we use on that path to optimizing your health, really. The endocannabinoid system is a very important system for baseline pain and mood as well. And so, and you can talk much more about it than I can from your module, but we use the endocannabinoid system specifically in our for-profit company, which is called Troscriptions. And so, as you were alluding to, we have a for-profit arm of our nonprofit. Health Optimization Medicine in Practice is a nonprofit here in the US and soon to be in Australia as well, right?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, absolutely. Not far away.
CEO Jody over here too. Dr. Jody, CEO Jody, herbalist Jody, compounder Jody, mom Jody,
so
handstand
many.
Jody. You have so many things that you...
Oh yeah, I do love a handstand.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm always impressed with what you're doing too, by the way. So
thank you. I don't know quite how I do it all, or vice versa for you. It's just that we tend to just do it, don't we?
Exactly. We just do it. And that's how it goes. I mean, I have 4 of those things that they're called children at my house. And we have,
crazy.
I just do it, it just happens, right? You just have kids and all of a sudden you have to take care of them.
Yeah, you gotta look after them.
But yeah, so, I mean, we have this Troscriptions brand, and the idea really was, how can we really focus on some of those bottlenecks? So the first couple products that we've developed are specifically for brain function, and they're called nootropics. And nootropics are really compounds. They don't have to be compounds. They actually can be things in your life that improve brain function as well. It's a pretty broad definition, actually, of what nootropics are. And what we've done lately is try to define it a little bit better for people. There are certain nootropics that support your system, that we call health optimization nootropics. These are Dr. Ted's categories. And then we have the other category, which are called performance optimization nootropics. So you can think of like health optimization nootropics are ones that support the system. And a very common one that's a non-supplement is sunlight. Sunlight can be a nootropic. It helps with vitamin D metabolism, and meditation could be a nootropic because it's helping with brain function. But on the supplement side of things, something like L-tyrosine that helps with neurotransmitter support could be a health optimization nootropic. And one of the compounds in our nootropic products at Troscriptions, methylene blue, also fits into this category because it supports the system by creating the ability to make energy more efficiently at the cellular level. Most of us know that we need oxygen to do that because oxygen helps with the electron transport chain, which is in the mitochondria, that creates this gradient, basically this charged gradient, this battery that allows us to make energy in our cells. And so methylene blue basically makes that process work better. It works just like oxygen, and it actually changes the conformation of oxygen on the red blood cell, on the hemoglobin molecule that oxygen is carried on, to actually dump out of tissue better than it would have otherwise. And so methylene blue is supporting the system by creating the support in this capacity. It also has the ability to, it also has a mild antidepressant capability because it increases neurotransmitters that are related to the monoamine oxidases, which is like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. And it also has antifungal, antiviral, and antibacterial qualities. Methylene blue has been around since like the 1890s, and it was actually, because of the coloring, it was actually the first coloring used for blue jeans, for making jeans, the color blue. And so, but it was also realized early on that it was something that could be used for malaria. Excuse me. And so it was used for malaria before there were any other drugs, and it was used as an antibacterial, especially for urinary tract infections, because it concentrates in the urine and makes your urine blue. And as we know, if you combine that with some B vitamins, it can be like a neon green kind of thing. So,
very cool.
So depending on how good your B vitamins are, but that's another story. But long story short, methylene blue is a health optimization nootropic. The other category, the performance optimization nootropics, are ones that stimulate the system mostly. So we're thinking of things like modafinil, for example, or nicotine, or Adderall, or those are the main ones I could think of off the top of my head. But so with those, you're having or caffeine actually is another performance optimization nootropic. And so these are things that stimulate the system to work harder. And if the system has to work harder, it has to harness its capability to do that. If it doesn't have the capability to do that well, the system will not do well, at least over the long term, if not the short term as well. And so you have what we call an overclocking of the system. And so that's when people are drinking too much caffeine. They can get this overclocking of their system, and it causes hormone problems and everything else, as you know, Jody. And so nicotine is a very interesting one. Nicotine is a cognitive enhancer. Of course, it is in cigarettes and vaping products and is known to be very addicting, but it's really only addicting if it's smoked or vaped. And nicotine itself is being studied in Alzheimer's patients and other cognitive impairments as a way to improve memory function. And so it's a fantastic compound, but it does stimulate the system. And so when you're using it, you have to be aware of that. And so that's why it's really important that anybody that's using our products, we're always looking at that foundation first. And alluding to my product, the other product would be something we have called blue cannatine. Blue cannatine is what we call a bluetropic stack. And a bluetropic is a combination of a health optimization nootropic and a performance optimization nootropic. And so the exemplar of this is actually methylene blue, because it actually fits into both categories. It actually fits into the health optimization and the performance optimization, but we also have a stack with caffeine and nicotine in it as well. And of course, not to be left out, and last, certainly not least, is the CBD or the cannabidiol that's in it. Because CBD, as we know, is an anti-inflammatory, it's neuroprotective, it affects those endocannabinoid receptors, and it has the effect of basically decreasing the system's tone a little bit in the sense of relaxing the system. So it's an anxiolytic. It decreases like anxiety, for example. And so we use it as a way to kind of round out the formula of blue cannatine. So we have the blue cannatine, which is is what we call the bluetropic stack. And then we have our pure methylene blue troche, which is called just blue. And it comes in this formula called the troche. And the troche is it's like a little square that you put in your mouth that makes your tongue blue because it has methylene blue. You put it up in the side of your mouth here or here, and you let it dissolve over about 15 minutes or so. And as it dissolves, the ingredients slowly dissolve into your system. The nice thing about being mouth or buccal absorption is that your vascular system is close to your brain. And so you get that sort of that brain feel pretty quickly with both the just blue and the blue cannatine. Now, blue cannatine, because it has nicotine and caffeine in it, it's going to give you more of like a launching kind of feel. Like not all of a sudden, over about 15 minutes or so, you're going to get this like ramp of like, then, whoa, you're good. Like you're not sort of like tunnel, but you're more like this, I would say. It's like, it's expansive, but like manageably expansive, if that makes sense, as opposed to like what I've heard, I haven't had it before, but like things like Adderall that make you like hyper focused and you're like, you can't move. And the nice thing also is that a lot of these, like nicotine, for example, can make people feel edgy, but having that slow ramp up is very helpful. And it gives people less of that feel of the nicotine edge that sometimes can happen. It's also very low dose. It's got only 1 milligram of nicotine. I think a cigarette has like 12 to 24 milligrams of nicotine in it typically. And the caffeine is 1/4 of a cup of coffee, 50 milligrams. The CBD is 5 milligrams, and the methylene blue is 5 milligrams. And all synergistically, you don't even need
the whole one. You could still go, like I still go 1/4.
I'm a 1/4 person too.
Don't even need a half or a full.
Yeah, so a lot of people that don't drink a lot of caffeine can get away with a 1/4. If you're a big caffeine person, if you're nicotine spraying every hour, then you're going to need more kind of thing. And so it depends, but typically the average dose for most people is a half of a troche. And just blue is 16 milligrams of pure pharmaceutical grade methylene blue. And that's another big ethos of our company, Jody, as you know, which is everything's pharmaceutical grade if we can get it. Everything is precision dosed. Everything comes with a certificate of analysis. We do everything in a good manufacturing practice facility, a GMP facility. And so, like you and I, we're both clinicians. We don't want to be involved in companies or processes that are not that way, because we're using these things with our clients.
Absolutely.
I'm testing methylene blue with my hyperbaric clients, for example, and I don't want to give them something that's not this kind of grade of product. And so we were very emphatic from the beginning. It took us a long time to launch, as you remember, because we were looking for sources of these things that we could trust and work on ourselves, and work on with not only take ourselves as you were taking, but also with our clients.
Absolutely.
And feel comfortable doing that. So in the end, we're clinicians.
A no crap policy. I have a no crap policy coming through my clinic. I'm like, if it's crap, it's not coming in.
Except if we're talking about shit, because shit is okay.
Shit's okay, but crap products,
but not crap.
Another thing.
Not crap.
That's another thing.
Yes, but 100% on the same page. And so the company is creating some new products this year, which we can talk about soon, but not quite yet. But the idea is, again, approaching some of these bottlenecks and seeing how we can optimize the system foundationally using health optimization medicine in practice. But we all have things that we need to deal with today. And we hope that we can help you in that process, but always with the framework of foundational health first, or at least concurrently, or else you're eventually going to get in trouble. Just like if you're going to buy that next biohacking technology you saw on Instagram, but you're like not working on that foundational stuff, you can get away with it when you're 20, 25, maybe 30, maybe 35. But after that, I mean, I hate to break it to people, but like after 35, it's harder. You know, you have to be thinking about how much sleep you get, what you eat for dinner, what time you eat, you know.
Absolutely.
I got away with so much more before I was 35, I have to say.
So with this, you know, everyone's blowing themselves all over the world except for Australia, but soon to come, let's hope.
Yeah, we're trying. We think methylene blue.
Yeah.
Specifically,
and
our Just Blue turkeys.
Like we were saying off recording, it's been now launched through pharmacy, so we can also get that. Yeah.
Yes.
Big deal. I will be letting everyone know about that, because I'll be going to try and source some myself soon. And then
we also have medical cannabis as well, too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's becoming, I think, a lot larger. Yeah.
It's just the knowledge that needs to be out there, and that's why creating something like the cannabis module will create doctors with more information, therefore be safe and feel better prescribing those.
Right, which is fantastic. So the module will be something that hopefully clinicians in Australia can use, because they can prescribe cannabis, and it's going to be something that, you're going to bring to the medical community. It's pretty awesome, Jody. I mean, of course, we can bring all modules to them and what we're doing, but what's nice about our educational company is that you can take any of the modules that you want. You don't have to take all of them. We have our basic certification course, which is the 7 foundational modules. But if you just wanted to take metabolomics, you can just get certified in metabolomics, which is like the biggest and the meatiest of our modules by far, really. And so we do have some of our practitioners that are just taking that and just getting certified in that. And I absolutely sure that we're going to have some people that just take our peptide module, some people that just take our cannabis in clinical medicine modules, and others. And that's totally cool. The education is for everybody. And we have various ways that you can access this. You can access this as a practitioner, as a doctor, but even if you wanted to take the material and just audit the course and not get it for credit, because we do have continuing medical education credits for all of our modules, are pending for a couple here, but coming soon. So as a physician, that's great. You can get your CMEs. And I would imagine in Australia, the CMEs that come from the US would be equivalent or be used
exactly the same
in Australia and other places. I know that's the case in the Philippines. And so we have opportunities for kind of everybody on the spectrum that's looking to learn the material. But then we have the level of certification of practice in metabolomics, in health optimization medicine, the basic course, and then the advanced modules too. So there's lots of options. And I'm really excited because this year we're launching the course, which is really exciting. It's been about 3 years in the making, 4 years, 2017, right? So about 4 years in the making. So, and we've all donated our time to make this happen because we believe in it.
Absolutely.
I have my own clinical practice that is a for-profit company, of course, as you do in your own clinical practice. But really, the way that Dr. Ted sold me on this was, he said something to me. It was very simple. He has this way of saying things that are very simple but very profound, as we know.
Yeah.
And he said, Scott, if we could just move the needle on health just a little bit, think about how many people we could help. And it's a big thing to think about, but if you can just move the needle like 1%, that is a huge number of people.
Absolutely.
Huge number of people. And so we're not sort of under any auspices that we're going to be changing the world billions of people at a time. If we can just change some significant nodes in the system, then a lot of things can happen. And so, we're looking at universities and partnering with them. We're looking at I work, and Dr. Ted and others that have already been certified are working with people that are on the higher end of the spectrum, that knowing that these are these nodes in the system that can help bring this knowledge and bring this benefit to others as well. So our goals are manyfold, but really in the end, it's about optimizing health and not focusing on conditions and disease, and understanding that when you focus on foundational principles, the other stuff gets easier. If it doesn't get better entirely, it gets easier. And
absolutely,
who doesn't like easier?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
It's quality of life will go up no matter what.
I like easy, although I like to do hard things too. I mean, all of us like to be challenged, but when it comes to our health, I don't think that's one of those things that we like to be challenged by. So.
Not constantly. Improving is good, but not always being in the challenge state. No way.
Yeah, that's a good designation or distinction there. I mean, there's always, what's really interesting is that I'm sure you talk to people all the time and they say, I didn't think I could feel this good.
Absolutely.
I didn't know it was possible.
Yeah.
And I often say, there's probably more to go.
Yeah.
Probably more that you can actually do.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, not trying to attain it per se, because the goal of attaining it can also be stressful and future orientated and like all the stuff that people get a lot of suffering because of. It's more that enjoy how you feel now, and then knowing that life is a process and that's all we have. And so staying in the present moment and enjoying it. And that's been a really big shift for my clients too, is that I try not to let them get too wrapped up in the future. Even if they're feeling 100% better, I'm like, okay, great. Well, how are you feeling today? What are you doing now? And like, oh, can I feel even better? Like, what can I do? And like, was there more? And
be addicted to the feeling of good health, right?
Being addicted to health is cool.
Yeah.
However, trying to stay in that present moment is really important. But that's when we build on these foundational tools, Jody. We build on, so I call them foundational tools for me, but like you build on tools that are on top of the Health Optimization Medicine and Practice Foundation. For me, that big one is Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy.
Yeah, which I want to talk to you about, because you're, the man to talk to about that.
I know about hyperbaric therapy a little bit. I've been doing it.
A little bit, come on.
Yeah. I've been doing it for 10 years now. I was thinking about it. I actually first got my training, my first training, like a weekend online course was back in 2007. And I've been working with patients significantly since 2013. So this is about 8 years or so in the process. And so it's a fantastic field that's been growing. But what I realized, about 4 or 5 years ago, is that I was referring people to functional medicine doctors a lot. And I wasn't really, I think, providing a service that I knew I could. And I thought about functional medicine. I thought about doing it and getting certified, and it just felt so unwieldy to me. So many modules and so much stuff, and there wasn't a lot of ground to it. I felt like it was like finding the root cause of things and going down these rabbit holes. And I was like, something didn't feel right until I met Dr. Ted, and I realized that there was another way to approach it, which was more foundational. And so that became and still is the foundation of my hyperbaric practice. And so some people come to see me just for Health Optimization Medicine. Some people come to see me just for hyperbaric therapy, but when they do that, most of my conversation with them, they get 80% everything else and then 20% hyperbaric therapy. Because I'm like, that's the easy part. Hyperbaric therapy is easy. You just get into a chamber and you sit there. Yeah. And the other 80% is the more challenging part, which is dietary, lifestyle, behavior kinds of things. And so, have somebody that will come to me that has cancer, for example, I'm not the first person they need to see. I'm not the first person. Typically, I recommend integrative oncologists first to create an ideal plan for them that includes other things other than just chemotherapy and radiation or whatever. And then considering health optimization medicine in these clients as well, depending on the indication. And so I have people that come in that have migraines or that have chronic pain. These patients need a real foundational approach first if they're going to get better over the long term. Chronic infections is a common one too, like Lyme disease, for example. I see a lot of Lyme patients, and these patients do very well if they're already getting better because they've approached the Lyme from an integrative way. If they just come in and just get hyperbaric therapy, they are not going to get better over the long term, in my experience. And so in any respect, what I delineate it in this capacity. If you have like an acute condition, something that just happened, an acute injury, acute inflammation, hypoxia, something, then you don't wait to do all that foundational stuff. You just get them in the chamber and you use my educational throwing shit at the wall strategy, right? Which is you do what you kind of understand that most people are going to need, and you focus some of that on whatever the indication is. So if it's a brain injury, for example, it's things like fish oil and NAC and even probiotics and vitamin D and some sort of complex B vitamin and things like that. So that's, I throw all those things on them along with getting them in the chamber, for example. And if it's other conditions, we use other things depending on what they might be, is that educational throw the shit at the wall kind of strategy. But if they come in with long-term goals, like, or if they have a chronic condition, so if they have a brain injury that's been going on for a long period of time, if they've had a stroke, if they're an elite athlete and they just want endurance potential or cognitive optimization or better erectile function, because we have studies that show hyperbaric therapy can do all those things, then those are longer protocols in the chamber. And at the same time, do really require a foundational assessment, in my opinion. Because if you're going to spend all the money and all the time to get into a hyperbaric chamber for 20, 40, 60 treatments, which is done Monday through Friday, weekends off, you are spending a lot of money potentially, and you're spending a lot of time. And so wouldn't you want to optimize that time? Wouldn't you want to make sure that you were getting the most out of it that you could? And so when I frame it like that, most of my clients or the people I'm speaking to will come to my point of view. Not everybody, and that's okay, but most people will. And then we talk about what kind of chamber would be more optimal for them. These are different types of chambers available. There are like the mild chambers that are out there that are more neurocognitive optimization, muscle health optimization, jet lag, muscle recovery, mild injuries. They can be used for immune system function. They can be used for sleep and energy and those kinds of things. And also some of the neurocognitive conditions, like some of the dementias and the autistic spectrum. There's some pretty good studies, and anoxic brain injury, even cerebral palsy. There's some interesting studies for those particular pressures. The deeper pressures in the medical grade chambers are where most of the medical indications for hyperbaric therapy mostly lie. But there is some crossover. It depends on what else you're doing to kind of optimize your protocols and things. But in essence, in the US, all of our medical indications are 2 atmospheres or below, or deeper, which means a medical grade chamber.
Okay. Yeah. It's, I like to put it, just summarize in there. I think I like to put it to people that those, like hyperbaric, but you need to build the base first. So you need the base nutrients, the base processes to then make those, whatever you choose on top of that, work better.
Right.
In saying that, you've got the HBOT Plus, which is now in Australia, your company. So what are the main atmospheric depths that you're looking at for those?
So HBOT Plus is a company that I co-founded with a couple friends, an engineer specifically, who's been great at really taking my crazy ideas and making them a reality. As I mentioned, I've been in hyperbaric therapy in the practice of it for several years. And so I've realized over that time that there's a lot more that we can do to really help people. I mean, one of the things that happens a lot more now, especially because there's much more knowledge about the chambers, that people are getting chambers and they have no clue how to use them. And the people that they're getting sold the chambers by, unfortunately, aren't giving them enough information or not giving them the correct information. And so one of the reasons I do the podcast that I do and speak about it is so that I can get this information out there to people.
Yeah.
But I also know that there's a lot more that we can do inside the hyperbaric community for people that are already inside the community and people that are coming in to educate them. So we're creating educational software using a phone application that's going to have my mug on there talking about hyperbaric therapy and protocols and education and things like that, and talking about mostly on the wellness side of things. So wellness protocols and optimization protocols. And I'm really excited because it's something that I've been working on in my brain or with clients for years, and now kind of codifying in certain ways. Of course, all of it needs to be tested, and we're working on that. And I'm excited for that phone application to come out soon and be an educational tool for even people that don't have chambers that want to learn about hyperbaric therapy. I'm hoping that it can be something that will be beneficial in that capacity as well.
Yeah,
but
it's so unsaid still. There's so much unsaid about hyperbaric, and I mention it to almost all of my clients that it's something that a consideration for optimization at some point or even now. And they're, well, what's that? I always get, what's that?
Yeah,
I'm like, oh boy, Scott, we need to do some work.
I know, and it's so simple. The technology, it's just a combination of increased atmospheric pressure, simulating the pressure you would feel under a certain amount of seawater, plus increase the amount of oxygen that you're breathing, knowing that at sea level, we're breathing 21% oxygen. And in a chamber, we can increase that up to 100% if we'd like. And then the oxygen is getting diffused into the liquid of our bloodstream. So red blood cells typically carry oxygen, but also can be carried in the plasma under pressure. And so we can supersaturate the body with oxygen. And then oxygen has these amazing capabilities. I mean, the most important one is making energy at our cellular level, like we were discussing before with methylene blue, and how that works like oxygen or enhances the way oxygen can work. And so once people understand that it's really just oxygen as a super nutrient, let's call it, it's the most important one that we have, really. Maybe sunlight and oxygen. I mean, depending on what your beliefs are, but oxygen is really, without oxygen, we don't live for very long. And so what we're doing in the chamber is utilizing oxygen to create this stimulus for making you heal better, revitalize better, optimize better. And HBOT Plus was developed to make hyperbaric therapy better, faster, and safer. And so the technology that we're developing and the chambers that we're retrofitting with our technology as it comes out will be the most advanced chambers on the market by far. Because not only will they have this educational tool, they're also going to have these things that we've actually worked on and patented. We have provisional patents on ways of sensing your pressure, ways of sensing your time and your oxygenation, and doing all these other cool things. And then we have some new technology that's going to be utilized inside the chambers to make the protocols more effective. At least that's what we're testing right now. So that no matter what pressure you're using at that particular pressure, the protocols will potentially be more effective. Amazing. And so we're already getting a number of chambers out in Australia, actually, and there's a couple of clinics that have them. There's one on the east coast of Australia, what's it called? Evolve, I think.
Evolve, yeah.
Yeah, with Pete Evans and his clinic. And then we have some others that are coming online. And so in the US as well, we have chambers that are with some athletes, and then we're working on some protocols and some development here. And so we're growing, and we're very early and we're bootstrapped. But the good thing about hyperbaric therapy is there's just not that many people out there that can speak about it in a really educated way. And so
that's right.
I tend to have a leg up on my competition because I'm actually doing this rather than just trying to sell a chamber to you. Because unfortunately, that's what I see that a lot now, is that people are just getting sold chambers.
It's all in the protocols as well. That's why I was so excited in the fact that you know about all the protocols. It's because when you're a clinician, you need to know how to use something to get the best benefit for each and individual case that you're doing. And you don't know that information as a clinician, and you know that. So developing these protocols and the phone application and all these other things will help the clinicians know exactly what to do and then get the best out of it, that's exciting. That's super exciting for me. For sure.
Oh yeah, and for me too. And one of the things I'd love to do, and if I could do this full time, I likely would, is just work with clinicians and how to integrate hyperbaric therapy into their practice. And I've worked with clinics across, one in the UK. I worked with several in the US that are medical practitioners. And I also have consulted on non-medical facilities like the Upgraded Labs in LA, which was going to have hyperbaric therapy at its first inception, actually, when I was at Dave Asprey's house in 2015, and he was sketching it out on his whiteboard while I was up there. And then I also consulted on a place in LA called Remedy Place, and that's a recovery center in LA. And so I love working with clinicians and with facilities that are looking to integrate hyperbaric therapy into their mix of technologies and practices, because it's this ultimate synergizer, really. It's just giving the body what it really would like more of, which is oxygen, but doing it in a prescribed way that allows you to really optimize whatever else you're doing in the clinic. And so, as I always say, like, what are you doing before? What are you doing during? And what are you doing after hyperbaric therapy? Yeah. And the cool thing about the mild units is that you can bring stuff in there. So we have people doing neurofeedback in there. We have people that are doing electrostim in there. We have people that are doing red lights in there. And we have people that are doing, like rolling on a foam roller or something to open up a certain area of the body that's tough or tight or whatever. And
what about PEMF? Can you bring those in?
You can. Yeah, the small portable units you can do as well.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. I think it just completes the whole network of health optimization, even methylene blue in the way that it optimizes oxygen. And then you've got the hyperbaric. It's just a perfect synergy. I love it. It's so cool.
For me, it works. It's easy for me to talk about them as my trilogy, I guess.
Yeah,
it's
trilogy.
It's really the three things that I do is work on that foundation with health optimization medicine in practice, create ways that people can work through those bottlenecks on their path, and then using hyperbaric therapy as my ultimate synergizer accelerator. And it's fantastic to see how this combination works. And in the US, it's a prescribed thing, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And so it's important that people know that if you're thinking about getting into a hyperbaric chamber, really, I would highly recommend trying to understand more about what you're using it for and protocols that might be helpful for you. I personally do worldwide consultation, education, and advocacy on hyperbaric therapy. And I actually coordinate with local clinics around the world to help them as well and educate them on the newest protocols. And I work with people outside of the hyperbaric community all the time, like integrative oncologists all the time. Dr. Naisha Winters is a good friend, and she and I are always talking about how you can optimize cancer protocols using hyperbaric therapy as a synergizer, for example. And so I try to be, I'm not always, but I try to be on the cutting edge of what's happening in the hyperbaric field and how it integrate with other conditions out there. Whether it be people that don't have conditions as well, like elite athletes and others in that capacity, or it could be people with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and chronic concussion symptoms and everything along the way. Of course. So,
Before I let you go, Scott, I wanted to quickly touch on the hot topic of HBOT and anti-aging, because I know some people would really want to hear about all that. Because it's
I thought you were going to ask me about COVID first.
No. We'll leave that one. We'll leave that one for today. We've had enough about all of that. No, because it's got. Hang on a sec.
I got you. Can you hear me?
Oh. Okay. Sorry. My
Did you got me now?
audio just went down a little bit. I'm back. Can you hear me, Scott?
Yeah, I got you fine.
Cool. Hang on a second. Okay. So with the anti-aging, so it's got a lot of research, I guess, or latest research. So explain that a little bit to me.
Sure. So the Israelis have the largest.
I can't hear you. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Pause for a second.
You tell me when. We're good.
You can hear me okay, can't you?
I can hear you just fine, yeah.
Yeah, I can't. For some reason, it's not coming through. All right, let's try that. Can you hear me?
Check one.
No, can't hear you again. Damn. What's going on? Hear me now?
I can hear you. I got you just fine.
Your microphone didn't change at all, did it? No?
It sounded...
Okay.
Check 1, check 2. Any luck? No?
Okay, try now.
Check 1.
There we go.
You got me back.
Got you back. All right. I'll ditch this one. Don't know what happened there. All right. Tell me about anti-aging. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So the Israelis have the largest hyperbaric facility in the world, and they've been kind of slowly teasing out literature research over the last several years. And they've done some interesting stuff on blood flow of the brain, of the heart, and also the genital region, so with erectile function. And so we know that a hyperbaric protocol can improve angiogenesis or increase blood vascularization. Yeah. And when you have increased blood vascularization, you are going to create the ability to deliver more nutrients to tissue that may be degenerating over time. And we know most people's brains, hearts, vasculature in general starts degenerating over time, especially after the age of 50 or so. You can see this on MRI scans and things like that. So these guys were able to show you can have improved blood flow in those areas. And so brain function coming back online, endurance, VO2 max improving, for example, for an endurance marker, and erectile function improving as well. And so that's how they get all the Israeli guys to sign up for the protocols in Israel, is they tell them that their erections will be better. I love to flash a screen because they did an MRI of the penis, which is great. And so I love to flash the MRI of the penis for people to see on my lectures, and people have no idea what it is until I explain it, because it's just, it's like a long, you can't really see, but so anyway, they came out with those studies. And then recently, about maybe a month or two now, they came out with a study on senescent cells and telomere length. Okay. And this is in healthy aging Israelis that are 65 years of age. They looked and they saw that after a protocol of hyperbaric therapy, which they use 60 hyperbaric sessions over 3 months at 2 atmospheres of pressure, which is in a medical grade unit, they saw telomere length increasing by 20% and senescent cell populations going down by about 30%. What was more interesting to me was on the senescent side of things, because senescent cells are these cells that build up and accumulate over time in our system that are responsible or correlated with aging and cancer and inflammation, and they're just like non-dividable cells. They just kind of sit around and don't do much. And so whether hyperbaric therapy created the ability for these cells to just kill themselves and just be gone, which would be fine, or regenerate, is not clear. But less of those cells is better, is what it comes down to, because those have a high risk of turning into cancer cells, for example. So we've got a lot of press recently, and very exciting. And they didn't change anybody's lifestyle. They didn't change anybody's diet. They didn't do anything except put them in the chamber. So the Israelis were still going to their hummus shops and, their fried falafels and everything else. And still you saw this. So the question I get a lot of is, well, how long does it last? Is this like a permanent thing? And the Israelis don't know. I don't know. But what I do know in my heart is that if you're doing these other things as well, if you're working on your foundation, if you're doing the foundational, whether it be health optimization medicine or another kind of foundational practice, lifestyle, diet, sleep, water, etc., those kinds of things, then you are going to have a lot more optimal improvements, very likely, and then those improvements will likely be more long lasting as well. So so that's what the anti-aging
so cool. So good to get it good press, and then people are now going to know more about it and then using it for other purposes as well, which is fantastic, which is so cool.
Yes, so exactly. Cool.
All right, now you have to go in a second. So one last thing is, last time we talked, there was some habits that we talked about. We talked about meditation, what gets you through your day, how it changed your life, since then, COVID's hit, the world's turned upside down. So give one parting thing that you have to have in your life every day still that gets you through, that keeps you on top.
So I already talked about meditation, huh? That's
it can be that again. It can be that again.
I've significantly doubled down on that on some level, in the sense that I'm home a lot more. And so my kids are running around, and it's very important that I don't have as much time for myself as I did before, because I was out of my offices and doing things outside the house. So it's still very important for me to maintain that time and have that ability to just decompress and go internal instead of being external. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this our last podcast, but my favorite toy outside of a hyperbaric chamber is my infrared sauna. And so that's really the best way for me to decompress is the infrared sauna in the evenings. And sometimes I meditate in there, sometimes I read. Meditating and reading usually put me to sleep. And so sometimes I'll watch something on Netflix, even, whatever it might be. It's just a way for me to decompress. And so I've had a lot of focus this year on just overall like physiologic health, in the sense of body health and things like that as well, and working on muscle groups. And we have some good friends like Dr. Ed in England who've given me some pointers over the year as well. And it's been fun to kind of be able to do some of that. Yeah, we have a Peloton at my house now, so I get to use that. And so the home gym is small, but we have a couple of things. So I think the best way I would describe it, this year has been a fantastic year to just really take a step back and see what truly is important. Most people think they need to be, and I'm one of these people a lot of times. I need to go here. I need to do this. I need to be there. And like, what am I doing next? And forgetting about staying in the present moment. But like, there's nothing else right now. All you really have, like at least in the US, there's nowhere for me to go. There's nowhere for me to do, really. I mean, it's like you're at the house. You can do a couple things here and there, but the kids aren't going to school. The kids are home, and they're not going to camp in the summer. We're not traveling anywhere. We're not going to the mountains for vacations and going skiing. And although we don't do much of that, we do some. And so what's important? A lot of people in our worlds, Jody, as you know, have really realized that they don't need to be on planes as much as they've been on planes. Absolutely. And they're a lot happier. They're actually talking to their spouse. They're actually having meaningful conversations. And that's a really amazing thing. And so, again, this has been really hard for so many people. But on some level, it's been, maybe there's an inkling of a blessing in the sense of those things that I've just mentioned, plus just the ability or just the focus more people are having on their health and optimizing it. And so I think that's a fantastic thing too.
Absolutely. Yeah. The present moment, definitely. It's taught a lot of people to really, really reevaluate, like you said. So that's,
the big secret is nothing else exists, right?
Yeah.
The past is gone and the future is whatever you want it to be in your mind, but most of it won't come true anyway.
It's all here.
So once you've begun the practice of meditation, you can see how these kinds of thoughts come up and just observe them and go, oh, that's another one of those. Like Dr. Ted liked to talk about them like balloons or clouds in the sky. They're both really good metaphors, I think, is that you're the sky, and then you just see balloons and they go, and the clouds and they just go, and some are dark and some have lightning, and some are beautiful, and sometimes you have rainbows and sunshine and all those things but they all go. Sunshine, rainbows, clouds, they all go.
Absolutely. All right, because you have to go, I'm going to leave it at the rainbows and the clouds. Thank you
Sunshine and rainbows
so much.
Is a good way to do it.
I think so too. I love a good rainbow. So thanks, Scott. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. It's just so lovely to chat with you and actually lock you down for a couple of hours. So thank you.
My pleasure, Jody. I'm going to go decompress in the sauna now. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, Scott. See ya.
Okay. Have a good night. Bye.
You too. Bye.